Saddle up your horses.
Pitter patter, let's get at her. It is another episode of the Manely Broncos Podcast, and in this episode, it is the first time in the Manely Broncos Podcast era where the Denver Broncos have broken this streak against the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, it feels so great to say that the Denver Broncos beat the Kansas City Chiefs. We will be diving into that game here in just a little bit. But before we want to talk about any of that, Brandon, how are you doing, my man? Did you have as big of a winning weekend as the Denver Broncos?
Dude, let's fucking go, man.
Yeah.
I can't believe this. This is ridiculous. I was losing my mind. Hold on. I have the perfect background for this. Give me a second. But yeah, literally right after the game, in honor of Kirk Cousins, who unfortunately tore his Achilles the same day, I screamed at the TV, "You like that?" So that was fun. Here we go. Hold on. Come on.
Let's see if
I had to go download it, so there's a delay.
There's a little bit of delay.
Right. Come on. Boom. It's the crying Jordan meme and the Chiefs logo. Let's fucking go, boys.
Yeah, that was absolutely incredible. Frankly, Brandon, you should actually let that be your background for the entire show. Just let it breathe.
That's what I was doing.
Breathe. Exactly.
I have another one. A buddy of mine, a Chiefs fan. His profile picture on my phone for the past 6 years has been Andy Reid with the crying Jordan meme, and I put it on there the day that the Steelers beat the Chiefs by only kicking field goals.
Ooh,
that was fun. Anyway,
we want to say, hey, thank you guys so much for hopping in with us. As we said, we'll talk about the game here in just a little bit. We want to remind people, of course, when tuning into the show here, if you guys are tuning into Twitter, first off, thank you guys so much for hopping on with us. But sadly, if you guys want to comment on the show itself through that Twitter broadcast, you can't, unfortunately. But you guys can do so either on Facebook, on the MHRT Facebook page, the Cameron Parker Facebook page, as well as possibly the Manely Broncos Facebook page as well. So you guys can do that as well. But of course, there's also those Twitter handles. If you guys want to share and tell your friends and have your friends tell their friends about the Manely Broncos podcast, do so. But hop onto YouTube, subscribe to the MHRT Network YouTube channel, and hop in the show with us. And let's dive into some great commentary, Brandon. It is
this game, man. This game.
It was just
I've needed this in my life for 8 years. Okay. I did the math. The last time that we won, other than Sunday, I couldn't legally drink.
Yeah.
So I went and I cracked open a beer, and I was like, this is the first
cracked open drink. A beer?
Yeah. Cracked open a beer. And I was like, this is the first drink that I've had legally since the Broncos last beat the Chiefs, which blows my mind. But it happened.
It happened. And you and I were talking about it before the show. The thing that was just so spectacular about this game was, again, in any victory would have been a big plus within this. But the fact that the Denver Broncos didn't just beat the Kansas City Chiefs, they handily beat the Kansas City Chiefs. So much so that, Brandon, if you were to tell me that the Kansas City Chiefs never led at any point in this game, I would have laughed at you. They never led. They never led in this game from start to finish. And frankly, I think for comparison's sake, as much as people want to make a big deal about it kind of being a regular season championship for us as Broncos fans, the thing is, it's definitely a regular season championship for sure. But when you haven't won in X amount of years, it's a big freaking deal when we can actually win, but win to the degree of what they did against the Kansas City Chiefs, because from start to finish, it was to piggyback off that Packers game, it was as complete and dominant a performance that we have seen from this Denver Broncos team in 2023. And the fact that it happened against the Kansas City Chiefs was remarkable.
Yeah, that was the first time the Chiefs, or that Patrick Mahomes specifically, did not throw a touchdown in a game since December 5th, 2021, which was also against us. But that one was in Arrowhead, which is insane. Actually, I didn't even know that. So yeah, we are now, like, of all the games that Patrick Mahomes has not thrown a touchdown, there's 7, and we're 3 of them. Although, to be fair, one of them was, like, I think it was his very first game, but it counts.
Yeah. You know, it's going to be amazing to me what transpires out of this, because the last couple weeks, you know, the Broncos defense has really transformed into something really special. I know exactly
a lot of credit.
I was going to say, yeah, because, like, if there is one person, you know, maybe aside from Justin Simmons and Garrett Bowles and any of those people that are basically been there, basically since the dawn of the streak actually happening in terms of the Kansas City Chiefs winning streak, you absolutely have to feel so good for guys like Garrett Bowles, Justin Simmons, and absolutely, of course, Vance Joseph. Vance Joseph, he has been under so much amount of scrutiny, Brandon, and we all know this, but it's like, since coming into the Broncos, you know, year as defensive coordinator, people were ripping him a new one, which, I mean, I understand the recency bias and, of course, everything that happened at the beginning part of this season. And the 7, if you were to even tell me that what we're seeing in the defensive construction of this team right now, that they had a game that was 70-20 against the Miami Dolphins, and in that same year shut down the Kansas City Chiefs under 10 points. Like, it's just insane the amount of transformation that's happened under Vance.
The thing that's interesting to me, well, there's several things, but I'll talk about the Chiefs part first. Obviously, we held them to under 10 points and not a single touchdown, but then it also kind of blows my mind that 2 weeks prior to that, we also held the Chiefs to 19 points, which I believe at the time was their lowest point total of the year. I'll have to go back and double check that, because I think they were averaging like 26 or something. Unless what was, I'll have to go specifically. I'm curious about the Lions game. I'll find out. But the fact that we did that, and then literally 2 weeks later, held them to 10 points less, like, that kind of blows my mind, because you would think, especially after being held to such a low scoring game at home in Arrowhead, like 14 days previously, that Andy Reid and company would have figured something out to try to attack the Vance Joseph defense. And whatever they figured out, it's kind of like, it actually is the Broncos equivalent of last year during the Nuggets playoff run, when actually there were 2 of these that come to mind. One person that was saying that they put Rui Hachimura on Jokic, and that made a difference. They figured something out when they did that, right? They didn't do shit, and they still got swept, right? And then the other one was someone else tweeting out that they found an incredibly exploitable Jamal Murray thing. Yeah, how'd that work out for you? This was the Broncos equivalent of that. Is like, you think that they would figure that out after 2 weeks of literally just getting held under 20 points, and then not only did they not figure it out, it was worse. So it was fun. But the other thing that I really want to really quick mention, because I want to hear your take on it real quick.
Yeah,
is I obviously I have no way of verifying this, because I'm not enough of obviously I don't know defense to the level that Vance Joseph and a lot of people do. I'm not even remotely close. I am not a defensive expert, but there's obviously something to, and it's been reported, the fact that he was kind of like forced into calling like a Vance Joseph style defense. And then, I'm sorry, Vance Joseph was forced into calling a Vic Fangio style defense, and then was able to kind of switch back to what he does, like the Vance Joseph defense a bit more. They had 20 against the Lions. Okay. So that was still over 20. Let's see, 20. No, I lied. Okay, the very next game against the Jags, they had 17. Wow, really? This has been a weird offense for the Chiefs. Anyway, yeah, so like I don't know the extent of that, but them kind of forcing him to call Vic Fangio like a Vic Fangio style defense, which he clearly does not seem comfortable with, and then being able to like move back to what he wants to do clearly seemed to have an impact on the defense and the team. But it also just kind of reinforces how much of a frankly stupid idea it is to hire someone and then tell them you have to coach this exact specific way, because then what the hell is the point of hiring that coach?
Well, I think that's the point of, if you can be able to make it work in terms of, even if to a certain degree it almost feels like you're putting maybe a little too many cooks in the kitchen per se, but in an ideal scenario, it's kind of like a Ejiro Evero, right? Because like one of the things that they said about Ejiro Evero as a defensive coordinator with the Broncos in 2022 was that he basically was operating under the same umbrella of the Vic Fangio defense. He was just adding some different wrinkles and twists, to the Vic Fangio system, right? And I think that the best thing about the fact that, Vance Joseph is inheriting, if you will, a Vic Fangio, a Ejiro Evero style defense, is that now going forward into the amount of weeks that we've been able to see and into preseason, he's now starting to incorporate maybe his style of what he's seeing from that Vance Joseph, from the Vic Fangio style defense, while incorporating the stuff that we have been accustomed to seeing with Vance in terms of his ability to blitz, his ability to create, creative blitzes, right? Which was one of the big things against the Kansas City Chiefs, was you saw a lot of creative pressure against them, whether it was cornerback blitzes, free safety blitzes, linebacker blitzes, or even just free rushers and just pass rushers getting to the football. And in doing so, it rattled Mahomes so much that you saw a lot of turnovers start to take place. And frankly, with the team in general, that, it was just a very unaccustomed game for the Kansas City Chiefs. And and the thing was, it trickled down to every single phase of the game, right, Brendan? So it wasn't just the fact that you saw a fumble happen by Marquez Scandling, where Justin Simmons got a fumble recovery, obviously later got another interception off of Pat Mahomes, and was awarded Defensive Player of the Week, I believe it was today. But it trickled down to the special teams. And if there is one consistent unit right now with this Denver Broncos team, it is the special teams. Tremont Smith is balling out of his dang mind on special teams as a gunner for this team, and causing basically McCole Hardman to, fumble the football and lay right into Drew Sanders' lap, which, oh, by the way, he held onto the football this time. He held onto the football, but those were key moments of the game. When you are able to win the turnover battle against a team like that, control the clock, control basically everything that you can for the game, it isn't just the Kansas City Chiefs, but you will find yourself winning a lot of ball games like that.
Yeah, and special teams for sure has been all year, has been kind of a strength of the team. That's kind of the good thing. That's how you have a good special teams unit. And this is unfortunately just kind of the reality of special teams, is when you don't talk about it. When you talk about the special teams, you hear people talk about special teams, it's because it's bad. I've never heard anyone talk about the special teams for the Broncos this year. And in the special team universe, that's a good thing. It's kind of like when people talked about when Pat Surtain was coming out of college and he was boring to watch because nothing ever happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. But yeah, I mean, special teams has been just all year has been stellar, but I just I keep going back to the defense, because again, the fact that it happened in the same year of you have a 70-point game, and then
Right.
a matter of like weeks later, you hold Patrick Mahomes to no touchdowns for the first time in 2 years. And I don't care about the flu. The whole flu game thing, that's just stupid.
It's BS.
But it just makes me wonder if, and I get credit to Mike McDaniel, like they were going to completely just bulldoze us anyway. But if Vance Joseph was allowed to run what he wanted to run for the whole year, I have to imagine that it had to affect. I don't know if we win that game, but like as bad as the defense looked until the past, like I think it really kind of started turning around, especially like against Green Bay, and the Chiefs before that. But within the past like 3-ish weeks, up until that point, it was, and even before the Dolphins game, it was a very, very, very poor defense. And I have to imagine that it could have made a significant enough impact that we might have won maybe another game or two in there. I don't think we would have won the Dolphins game. Like I think that was going to be a blowout anyway, but I don't think they would have scored 70.
Well, one thing is for sure, they probably would have won maybe the Washington game and maybe possibly even that Las Vegas Raiders game to start the season.
Might have won the Vegas game. And especially like I know they won the Bears game, but they might have not made Justin Fields look like Patrick Mahomes.
Basically Tua Tagovailoa in the first half. No, I'm with you, but it's just like, you know, the other part of this, and it goes back to the Packers game, is, you know, this idea of that identity, right? The identity of this football team, and we have been, you know, just berated at in terms of by the clips of, you know, Sean Payton telling us that they are going to be a ground and pound physical football team. And, you know, you go out and you sign Mike McGlinchey, you go out and you sign Ben Powers. And right now, if you were actually to tell me, you know, that the offensive line had maybe its best game against the Kansas City Chiefs, it's so crazy to say. I mean, Lloyd Cushenberry is having a fantastic year. He's entering extension talks right now. You never heard Chris Jones's name mentioned hardly at all. Frankly, I don't even know if I even heard his name mentioned, you know, within that Kansas City Chiefs game. Like he was so silent in that game. But I mean, the identity of that football team coming from the standpoint of, you know, here we go. Like, let's put forth this running game. And I think that it was just about what is this identity of the running game going to be looking like? Is it going to be the balance of Samaje Perine, Javonte Williams, sprinkle in Jaleel McLaughlin here and there? Frankly, with the way it's operating right now, Javonte Williams is slowly but surely starting to kind of enter his way into maybe what we saw with Breece Hall a little bit at some of the points of the season where he just looked really good at one point. Javonte is getting to the point where he is so comfortable running the football now in both the passing game and the running game that it's just like he just feels so close to, one, breaking a really long run, and two, like we're going to get that 100-yard game that we haven't had for a couple of years. So, I mean, like it's finally getting to that point where I think the Broncos are really adapting that identity.
Yeah, well, especially with Javonte at that position and the injury that he had, like it was going to take some time for him to get back up to full speed. Like even if he was healed, and you hear this all the time, where like people it still affects them because they don't trust the knee, especially when you're like making all those cuts, and especially even more with the running back position because you're literally running into contact. Like it is the most physically. They'll hold every position is physically demanding, but just like with a running back, you're literally getting completely just beat up every single play. You are going to run into contact usually quickly, and you have to fight through it. And like having the trust in yourself and your body to not break down and work is very taxing mentally. But he looks like he's more back. And you've also seen players where they have those kind of major injuries, and it seems to actually be it's interesting. It's more with the running backs, it's more the Achilles,
like
not as much the ACL, where like they have more like they have the Achilles injury is the one where they have it and then they never look like themselves again. Like Cam Akers, I think is the first name that pops in my head, and he kind of like has looked kind of decent, but then he was traded, and I don't know what that's going to turn into. But
Todd Gurley, maybe another one.
The Todd Gurley one.
Yeah.
There's another one that it's escaping me, but it's the Achilles, and thankfully he avoided that, and like ACL is still really big. But yeah, I mean, I think he could be 95% of the old Javonte, right? Which
Maybe
is maybe 100%
maybe,
of it. I don't know, but that's very promising. And then you have Jaleel, who's just Jaleel.
he's absurd.
I still think we could use Samaj more. But
he's absurd between the tackles. Like there's one run, and I haven't actually gotten to the point in the game where I may have missed it, but it was the run where, or maybe it was a design pass or whatever, but he was running and then he did some like the way he shifts in and out of holes. Like it is actually, I feel like it's almost impossible for him to fumble the football. Like I know that he had the fumble, against the Kansas City Chiefs, which, I believe ended up coming back, but like the way that he does run, it's just like it just seems like it would be very rare for him to fumble the football. Like the way he holds it, the way he carries it, the way he goes in and out of his, jump cuts, like it's clean. Like it is so clean when he runs the football that it's like the moment he does hit that hole, like even the smallest 2-yard gain is going to go for a 13-yard gain.
Yeah, no, he is insanely shifty. He kind of reminds me of
he reminds me a bit of Austin Eckler. I hate to say
it. It's a weird comparison because like the it's not like the way that they do it is very different, but the way that the shiftiness kind of reminds me of like what Le'Veon Bell did. Le'Veon Bell had way more patience in like how he went after the run and like read his blocks and got in the hole. So like that part is very, very different. I'm not saying it's Le'Veon Bell at all. Like their game is totally different, but the passing game work, the just kind of like shiftiness, where you can't really hit him. Like there could be people around him and he can just like get right past you. That reminds me of Le'Veon Bell a little bit, which is awesome, right? So that was amazing, and as long as we're kind of like almost giving out game balls,
there's a
other
lot
than pretty much everyone,
right? You're gonna
one guy. I'm gonna steal it. I'm gonna steal one before you say it because I want it. This is my guy.
J-Mac?
Jaquan McMillan, man.
Yeah.
Jaquan McMillan. Not only does he have the pick, which, like, first of all, that pick by itself is incredibly impressive. Like, I went back and watched it. He literally is like, he's kind of sitting up at the top of the screen and he literally is just reading Mahomes' eyes the whole way. And he kind of just like starts to trickle down a little bit and just like full out sprints, dives in front of the football. And he's actually, it's weird because when I first watched it, it kind of looked like he's on Kelsey. Like one-on-one almost, like they're not one-on-one, but
he
he's
actually
like lined up in front of Kelsey. And he kind of like, then it looked like it's more of a zone, but he like dives in front of it, makes the interception. Absolutely ridiculous. But the thing that stuck out to me more was like a bit later in the game too. Is
I think I know where you're going with it.
It's like literally 3 plays in a row. He blows up the play. And it's pretty much all him. Like the very first one, they're doing a Pacheco run, and the left guard, like, first of all, like, props to their left tackle, whose name I'm forgetting, because like he just like books it out there to block him.
Donovan Smith.
Yeah. And McMillan just like ducks under him and is able to kind of affect Pacheco. He doesn't actually tackle him, but he kind of like grabs him. He might have been a little bit of a face mask, but he like interrupts Pacheco, stops the run. Literally the very next play, he's kind of like sitting in the middle of the field again. Like just all he does is sit back there and he's like a spy. He's spying Mahomes. He's just watching him. And Mahomes takes off, runs up the right sideline, and McMillan just like sprints up there and stops him before he hits the first down marker. And then the very next play, he's back at the bottom of the screen, and I think he's just covering Rashee Rice, like one-on-one. And again, they're running it, and he just kind of like sniffs it out and hits McKinnon. And like 3 plays in a row, he just like shuts it down.
Well, the one play that I thought you were going to mention, and maybe actually mention, I just missed it, but there was a play, and maybe it had been in that same stretch, but it was almost like he was a quarterback spy to a certain extent.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, he was
where Mahomes was rolling to his right, and he broke off the coverage. That was, I think, the play that really stood out to me.
He was like kind of in the middle of the field, and then Mahomes rolls out to the right, and then he just like closes the distance and hits him
like fast too. Like it was pretty crazy how he closed the closing speed on that to get to Mahomes, and then really not even do anything. That play,
that was the middle play in that 3-play sequence.
Yeah. So I mean, he's getting to the point, and you said it, I've said it. I mean, like, let's be.
He had a similar game. That was his game last year against the Chargers. He did the same thing.
Exactly.
It was like 3 plays in a row, which is McMillan. Like,
and what is so funny about this is he should have had the interception in the Chargers game, and in this one, he got the interception in the Chiefs game. But the thing is, like, people need to remember, like, Jaquan McMillan, let's be completely honest and blunt, he has actually been as good and as advertised since that Chargers game. Like, he really is.
Been low key, he's a stud.
He really has been performing, and he was really good in training camp. The Broncos very clearly decided not to move on from him, and because of with where things are with Demario Mathis, I mean, the other person, frankly, that you should give a rose to, right? Because the Flowers was like a big theme for 5280 yesterday for me. But like, if you were to give another flower, it would be also Fabian Moreau. Fabian Moreau
had that like really good pass breakup on.
Yeah. So I mean, like, both of those guys.
I don't remember who it was.
And I think that, again, like, the Broncos are really finding themselves in terms of the players that they are trying to, obviously deserving of getting playing time, meaning guys like Fabian Moreau and Jaquan McMillan, guys like.
I think they got to start playing them. I know Moreau is kind of already starting in front of Demario Mathis, which like still disappoints me because I thought Demario Mathis could be so good. Maybe he turns around, but you got to play him more.
But it does feel like Jaquan McMillan is sort of into that like boundary of.
Jaquan McMillan is kind of like the K'Wan Williams.
Exactly. I was just going to say that because like
what he was doing.
It's almost like the boundary of, because he played boundary like in that Chargers game. Like he played boundary, and he's currently with what we're seeing, he's played nickel and he's doing an exceptional job of it.
When we lost Williams, like I thought that was going to be a major blow because he's like low-key one of the better slot corners in the league.
Underrated too.
Yeah. And like I was kind of scared, right? And like, nope, just slot McMillan in there and he's good. Like, we got to find whatever it takes to keep that guy around. You can't have too many corners, and like he's a good corner.
And again, we'll probably be handing out a lot of game balls. And people that are in the chat, by the way, Big Mike, Josh, anybody else that is watching on the YouTube stream, if you guys feel like you guys want to hand out some game balls too, hop in the chat and type in possibly who you guys would hand out a game ball to. So like for me, I also think too, like, game balls also could necessarily be a moment, right? So like game balls in the sense of like, so like in Super Bowl 50, I just had this inkling Cam Newton was off immediately. Like when he threw the pass, I forget who it was to, but he overthrew the guy and like he tried to jump forward and like was badly overthrown. Like at that moment, I was like, Cam Newton does not have it right now. Like he does not have it in terms of, like just the overall game. So like overall, like that moment was really big overall for the game. For me, there was one moment for me that I thought was deserving a game ball in terms of when we talked about it earlier in terms of like the Broncos punched the Kansas City Chiefs in the mouth, Brandon. The Nick Bonito chirp at Mahomes at the beginning point of the game when they stopped him on 3rd and 14, I felt like was a direct message to the Kansas City bench to a certain extent, almost like in Remember the Titans, where Julius Campbell, I think he sacks the guy, and then Garrett Bertier points to the sidelines, not even saying a word almost, but just like saying, We're here. This is our field. This is our turf. You know, like, I mean, like, we're going to make you earn it. And so, I mean, like, at that moment, I was like, oh, dang, this is going to be real. Like, the Broncos absolutely mean business.
Well, and because the Chiefs are about to go play in Germany. And, like, they kind of got caught looking forward to that game. They fucked up.
Yeah.
Because one other thing I do want to talk about, because, like, I'll say it. I'll call myself out. Like, I did have some emotional tweets during the game from the broadcast view of, like, Russ.
Yeah.
I still think he was okay. He was pretty good. He wasn't great. Like, but he was better than I gave him credit for, because there were sometimes, like, especially because Russ's kind of thing that he's known for is, like, he holds on to the ball too much.
We'll probably talk about this, Brandon, but man, talk about a game ball.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that was.
Give that guy a raise.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. But the like Russ just holds on to the ball too much. Like, that's kind of been his thing. The first part of, like, in the first quarter, there were several plays where it kind of looked like that's what he was doing, and, like, there were just so many dump offs to the running back. It felt like, I went back and looked at it, and they were definitely, like, designed screens, which, like, we intended to do and we called. And then there were some plays too where, like, it kind of looked like Russ was holding on to it, but really there was literally just no one open. Like, he couldn't go anywhere with it. So I'll pull back a little bit. Like, Russ had a better game than I thought. There were some plays though, like first of all, the Judy ball was, like, awesome. Judy, like, if you go back and watch it, it's actually funny, because I went back and I watched it and I put it at half speed because I just
which one are you talking about? The moon ball?
The one where he, like, the super athletic one where he, like, jumps up and catches it kind of, like, over his head in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
Because I went back and watched it at, like, half speed, and at half speed he looks like he's running at full speed and everyone else is in slow motion. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, he just, like, completely all out for it. He gets the safety to, like, turn outside, and then he cuts back inside and does that, like, massive Superman catch. Like, it was awesome. There was a couple of plays though, like, right after the McMillan pick. There was one, it was really weird. The Chiefs were in too high, and the Sutton was, like, because Sutton was at, like, the top of the screen, and he was, like, they kind of, like, handed him off a little bit to, like, a zone, but both safeties dropped back super far, and Sutton is, like, literally wide open. Like, there's no one even remotely close to him. And it's weird because when you look at it, it looks like Russ is looking directly at him.
Was that late second half? Or sorry,
it was the second. It was literally the play after the flea flicker.
Yeah, what was it? I think it was that was late. That was late first.
Yeah.
It
was weird because he could have easily hit him and gotten a big gain. Instead, he took off and he still got the first down. He got a lot of yards out of it. But he could have, and I was surprised that he didn't make that throw. Which, like, and again, he's not perfect, but, like, that was kind of something you want to have back. The one thing that, like, was really interesting to me is when he had that fumble out of bounds, because I was, like, really pissed at him. That whole play was kind of doomed from the start. It was really weird because you watch it, and the very beginning of the play, I think there was, like, some kind of miscommunication with Mims, because Mims, like, the first thing you see is Russ kind of, like, yelling at him, telling him to get back, and then you see he's, like, way out of place, and I think it's, like, Troutman and Samaje Perine are both, like, telling him, like, get back, and he stands, like, directly behind Russ, and Perine is in the backfield on the right side, and it was weird because Russ takes a snap and he, like, turns and fakes it to the left, and there's no one there, and then Perine, like, starts to run around to the left, and then he gets, like, caught up by I couldn't tell if it was the guard or the tackle, but he kind of gets caught up by someone, and then Russ, like, has to bail out. It was really weird. Like, I still think it was like it kind of sucks that it was a fumble, but it fumbled out of bounds. But that whole play was like kind of doomed from the start. It was just like a broken play.
Yeah. But I think that's where, so I think frankly, like you and I are kind of in agreement. Like I in the sense of like his lowest moments were at that latter part in the first half. Yeah. But to be fair, like, this is where I felt like the blame is on Sean Payton, and Sean Payton deserves blame for that. Like in terms of the flea flicker drive, I will say though, like going back and watching that play, I felt like, especially in a broadcast view, like you're thinking, wow, that's actually a really bad throw by Russell Wilson. But then you actually go and watch the tape and you actually see Jeudy like adjust. And so there was possibly some miscommunication there between he and Jeudy on that, and why Russ threw that ball, because the Kansas City defender was basically running right.
The defender, props to him, because I didn't see who it was, but he sees what they're doing and he turns around and just hauls ass back towards.
Yeah. So I mean, but that's what I'm saying. So it's just I understand, on the broadcast view again, it looks like a really bad play by Russ, or the bad throw by Russ. But then you look at it again, it's like, oh, there was a reason why he underthrew that football.
There was, yeah. And there was another one like that where it was I think it was also to Jeudy, and I believe it was kind of like a cover 2 hole where he's trying to fit it in over the corner, but before the safety gets there, and he just it was inches away. He just barely overthrows Jeudy, just
I think
tiny,
I know
tiniest bit.
Same on that sideline. I think I know where you're talking about. Yeah,
and that it kind of looked really bad when you first watched it, but you go back, it was super super close. And, so that's not even him. He overthrew it, but not really. He kind of threw it to where he thought Jeudy would be, and Jeudy was half a step earlier. So it really was just slight bad timing.
But to talk about Russell Wilson too for a second, I do think he deserves a game ball to to what you're saying. It's just I think with Russell Wilson, he played within the system. And he did such a good job of that. No, it didn't really look pretty, but his efficiency, his the way that he operated the offense, it was pretty crazy what he was able to do. So there was a crazy statistic out that was posted. I want to say it was the most accurate quarterbacks at each level of the field. This is pretty crazy. So obviously Pat Mahomes, as you would expect, is going to end up being number 1. But Russell Wilson is listed at 6th on this list. So on the on the behind the line of scrimmage, Russell Wilson is at 78%. Short would be 50%, and the intermediate, and the shaded box, by the way, is nothing but blue, if you will. It's a lighter blue and nothing but blue. And intermediate is 53%. Deep is 35%. His overall accuracy rate is 54%, which puts him at the within the number 6 in terms of the how accurate he is as a passer. I think that as much as we want to criticize him, and I think that I think he is deserving of criticism to the point of, with what we see from him,
here's
specifically the first half. Let's talk about the first half for a second. Obviously, and we actually had this conversation with Ben last week, but with what you see from Russ, there are times where he does hold on to the ball too long. But by that same token, that is, to his credit, that is who he is. But it's how he also makes plays and extends plays. Now, in terms of how he holds on to the ball too long, that's where it gets a little bit too, where if he's holding on to the ball a little bit too long, he's also susceptible to turning the ball over. And you can have, you can have as big of a hands as you can, but if you are not holding on to the ball, and I definitely agree with you in terms of the turnover, on the fourth down play that was doomed from the start. But it's it's just one of those things, you cannot lose the football on really key situations. And you can be a Super Bowl champion, you could be a rookie, But in the moments, in terms of that first half and turning that ball over with like 20 some seconds left, and the Kansas City Chiefs go down and kick a field goal near, like it was, those plays cannot happen. But again, like to pull back a little bit though, it really did feel like Russ was playing as good of a game within the system that we have seen all year. Like he was efficient, he was accurate, he was making the decisions that he needed to extend drives, use his legs, and more importantly, be efficient in the red zone. The 3 touchdown passes, putting points in the end zone, something he obviously did not do in that Thursday game against the Kansas City Chiefs. So in all seriousness, kudos to him for playing at a clip and at a rate where he put his team in position to score 24 points.
Right. My biggest thing with him, and like I just don't, I'm torn. I don't know what the answer is his March contract guarantee. Because in March, on the 5th day of the 2024 league year, we're going to be guaranteeing him $37 million in 2025. Fully guaranteed for injury. And he's going to be 35 as well at that point. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. Like, I don't really think you can pay him that, but you don't have a choice.
Well,
like, I don't know how much longer, because like that's what it is. Because I think it really depends on what happens the rest of the year, because we can get into it. Maybe if you want to do even like a preview of the schedule, because we could win a decent amount of these games.
Why don't we talk about it from this standpoint? So I mean, like,
well, let me run a hypothetical by you first, real quick.
In terms of the trade deadline, because we haven't talked about it.
It's part of this. It's part of the where do we go from here?
Yeah,
because we didn't make any moves at the deadline, which I get. Like, I get it, especially if the moves weren't there. The thing that I want to know is, like, would we have made the move? Like, we didn't trade a wide receiver because we probably didn't get what we wanted back, right? If someone was willing to offer what we were willing to or wanting to get for him, would we have still made the trade? Like, that's what I want to know, and obviously there's no way to know that. But to go into the where we go from here, this was my thought, and I just want to know what you think about it. I'm torn between, let's say we end up with a pick at, let's say we're at pick 18 in the draft. Do you try to trade up? Do you try to trade down? Do you take wide receiver? Do you take a tackle? Do you take JJ McCarthy and take a shot? Do you take Michael Penix? Maybe you trade down first. That's where I don't know.
Well, but that's the thing, is like, that's like, I think, a conversation for next off season.
We'll talk about it more. I just was like, that's where I'm at right now.
But the thing is like, we've had this conversation before, and I've had this conversation before, and I've wrestled with this for years, because, and call it with what you've seen with the Denver Broncos and their quarterback history, but like, you need an elite quarterback in this league, but also, like, in terms of the draft and in terms of a draft prospect, you can fall in love with a draft prospect in terms of like an analyst. But by that same token, from the team's point of view, their view of a prospect is completely different than yours. So if they view a guy like a person you feel is a bust, but if they feel like he's the guy to go after him. And so, like, if you feel like,
that's why I'm like,
and so
that's why I'm torn, because if Sean watches JJ McCarthy and Sean's like, I love JJ McCarthy, and he's sitting and he's there, right? Let's say it's JJ McCarthy or Keon Coleman.
Mm-hmm. I doubt it would be Keon Coleman.
I mean, I doubt it, but like that's what I'm, or like, I can't think of like one of the tackles that would be there that late. Like maybe Joe Alt lasts that long. I doubt it, but that's just where I'm like, that's a tough decision. And obviously, like, George Payton and Sean Payton, or the George Payton specifically, is like getting paid the money to make that decision. I'm just saying, like, from a team building standpoint, and like the Russ guaranteed contract, which by that point, who are you, Alex? By that point,
the guy
who you are.
The guy on the right over here is no relation to the NBA rookie Brandon Miller. Is no relation.
It's just tough. Like, I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. And I mean, obviously, we're not going to know for a while, and we're like talking about this way far in advance. But that's just like, that's where my brain is going after watching that game, because it's like,
but
I see
also
the potential, but I also just see like, I don't know.
But like the point that I think that's going to end up being brought up, and you touched a little bit of it, is if the Broncos find themselves within certainty and guaranteed understanding they will be taking a quarterback, whether that's at pick 18, 9, 7, wherever they'll still pick. You know, if they are guaranteed that they know that they will be picking a quarterback, they should take a quarterback. But by that same token, and I should clarify this more, if Russ is still on the team, you absolutely and with certainty have to restructure his contract so much so that he is considered the bridge quarterback. And I think that that's the level of this, is that as the season progresses, if Russ plays well enough within this system, he will play so well that he can possibly be considered a bridge quarterback for a quarterback like a JJ McCarthy. The thing that has me a little bit hesitant for some of that is, when we had the conversation about Michael Penix Jr., say you fall in love with Michael Penix Jr., he's going to be a little bit old coming into the NFL. And on a guy like that, despite maybe how raw he is, or maybe as a project as he is, you would rather play him right out of the gate because of the fact that you want him to get that.
I don't want to be in a Jordan Love situation.
Right. You would rather have him play, in terms of in that type of situation. But if you feel like Russ is truly the right quarterback to be that bridge quarterback, you want to maybe take a chance on a quarterback, maybe with the same skill set that is also maybe an idea of maybe what you want with the system, or an idea of what you want in the system and how to further that system just a little bit more. A guy like a Cam Ward. Like if you want to take a guy like a Cam Ward, that's a guy that you could probably sit under Russ for maybe a year, maybe at the very most 2, and then give the reins to him, after that first year. But you have to give the reins to him after that. So it's just like,
well, the thing that makes that just so hard is, even if Russ is your bridge quarterback, he's still not getting younger, and he's still not a pocket quarterback. So there's only so much he's going to be able to do. Like it's just going to continue to go downhill. Like he's going to be 35. But he's still going to be able to do it. Like it's not like he's 80, right? I'm just wondering.
And we'll have that conversation a little bit later. But as far as the trade deadline, as a whole, you do feel good, because I agree.
Let me ask you this question at the trade deadline, because I put this out there last week, and I have people like yelled at me for it, which I don't understand why. Chase Young went for a third. I said I would trade a third for Chase Young. Would you have done that?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you look at the deal.
I feel like we're kind of dumb for not doing that. If I'm being honest.
Especially due to the fact that it was a compensatory pick, which is also a lower third. Which oh, by the way,
that's just laughing in our face, because it's the compensatory for losing.
Well, but the thing is, like, it also would have been a 4th round pick roughly. So it's just like, that's what makes it worse. And so it's just like
losing McGlinchey.
Yeah. So, but it's just like, truly, like, it just makes it that much worse that if you were to buy, trading for a guy like a Montez Sweat or a Chase Young were really the only logical ones. Or if they wanted to go, I don't know, to New England and trade for Hunter Henry, or or go to New England and get maybe like Mike Gesicki or something as a tight end for the offense. Like between a tight end and possibly with what you were going to do for Chase Young, those are probably your only like maybe buy moves that you were probably wanting to make at the trade deadline. And I think also too, like, this is not a buying or selling trade move on this, but I feel like there was really an only argument possibly to be made that if they wanted to make a move, like if they truly wanted to make a move that I would say didn't necessarily change the outcome of where they're at, it would have been a Josie Jewell trade. But I'm also thankful, like truly, I'm also thankful that they didn't make a move, because here we are again, where it's like you had such a huge victory against the Kansas City Chiefs. If you trade some people off after a game like that, you're sending the wrong message to your locker room. If you do trade about as many guys as you can, after a game like that, and especially the experience that guys like a Justin Simmons, right? A guy like a Justin
we better
Simmons.
never trade Justin Simmons.
So I mean, and I think that it's getting to the point where for the trade deadline that I feel like they made the right call. Now, here's the other caveat of all of this, though. Just because they made no moves on the trade deadline does not mean they will not be making trades or moves of shipping some of these players off in the off season.
Well, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
Is like, what do you do with Tim Patrick?
So there, we heard rumblings, and I have to go confirm this, but it seemed like he restructured his deal, which to me makes it seem as if he is very receptive to the idea of returning as a member of the Denver Broncos. But what I find so funny about this, Brandon, is I'm really glad we tied a bow on all the scenarios last week, and I'm really glad I mentioned, well, what about the possibility of, they actually decide to keep Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, right? And then possibly maybe they move on from Russ, So, I mean, I still think that's a window where the Broncos...
Let me run this insane idea, because, I'm not trying to hate on him at all, but I'm just, with the age and the contract thing, even if he continues to play well, I also wouldn't be or at least okay, I wouldn't be surprised if we did move on from Russ. I think it's less likely, but I'm just curious to see
Still depends, but
I'm not saying I'm advocating for it. I'm just saying I wouldn't be shocked if we still do it.
I agree.
After the season.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
I don't think it's gonna. I mean, do I think it's gonna happen? I don't know. I'd have to know what the rest of the season plays out as to give you even a remotely confident answer. But I just it wouldn't surprise me. That's how fluid it is.
It is 100%. It is definitely fluid.
The Tim Patrick thing. The reason I ask that is you have a potential out, and I didn't see this out. Him restructuring us. Maybe that affects that, but. Yeah. If you have the potential out in 2024, and this is a very talented wide receiver class, I loved him and he got his money. He's going to be 31. And he has that injury, just strictly, purely business sense. I would not be surprised either if we ended up cutting him with that out and just drafting someone.
Yeah.
To add to the room of Mims, Sutton, and Jeudy. And I still think you got to get more and part of it was when I said that Jeudy was going to get traded, because I still believed that until it didn't happen. You still have to find a way to do more with Mims.
Agree. But I think there's ways that they can be able to operate.
You can.
Yeah,
but
there's ways you can do that with still operating, and you feed your targets to Jeudy, you feed your targets to Courtland Sutton, and then you sprinkle in Marvin Mims. That's not on trick plays. That's not on trick plays or anything like the end arounds or
whatever that fumble play was supposed to be.
Right. Right.
I went when I first saw that, I was like, what the fuck is this play?
But I like that Josh says this though, because I think that this is kind of where it's really important to truly take that step back, like I said, because it's the fact they decided not to trade anyone, and of course, it was to a certain extent as a result of that Chiefs game. This truly allows Sean Payton to evaluate this team as a whole. And that's the thing that makes me so excited going forward. So to the Russ point, this allows him to evaluate him for a full season. This allows him to evaluate guys like Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, maybe a Greg Dulcich. Sorry, Big Mike. But allows him to evaluate a guy like those types of players, maybe even a Tim Patrick. Where are these players that he possibly views in his future plans, right? And so I think that so I'm glad to a certain extent that they really didn't make a move, because this allows a coach like a Sean Payton to fully evaluate a football team, especially for a guy who has full control the way he does. And, and also I think from the mere sentimental part of it, I'm happy that they didn't make any moves, because this, once again, this allows them to stay with the unit. This allows them to stay and groom together, because we all know, like even dating back to last year or just even many of the years prior, the Broncos have kind of struggled with chemistry over the years. And so the fact that you finally have this opportunity to grow, get a winning streak, and so on and so forth is big for this team.
Yeah, I mean, that's like part of that is the offensive line too, because obviously, and like it's been said thousands of times, how much gelling is required on the line. And obviously that's kind of like just with some of it already been happening, but you have like the Ben Powers move, you have the Mike McGlinchey move. And then I know Garrett Mulls was like kind of a go ahead.
I was going to say, which by the way, Mike McGlinchey, if we're going to hand out game balls, Mike McGlinchey deserves to get a game ball.
I didn't really watch him that much at all yet, so I have no idea how good he was. But yeah, I mean, like Garrett Bowles was also like a pretty popular name that was brought up as a trade guy, but the offensive line has been pretty good. Like actually, I just saw one of these reps from McGlinchey, pretty good. So I'm just curious, like, what you do there as well, because like especially with Lloyd Cushenberry kind of like coming along like he has been, and you just drafted Forsyth. Like I think I saw some people say like trade Forsyth. No, and like that's why I'm still would be, even if this offensive line, this is how fluid this is, even if this offensive line continues to kind of gel and look good, I wouldn't even be mad if we still try to spend a premium pick in the first round on a tackle, because you can't have too much depth on the offensive line.
Exactly.
Like, you have to be the Eagles do this for years. They've invest so many picks into non-sexy positions in the first round in the trenches. And what do they have to show for it? An incredibly dominant offensive line, an incredibly dominant defensive line that just seems to rotate players, and it's always good.
Exactly. And if there's one thing that we also know about Sean Payton is that he also likes to invest in that offensive line. So would not be surprised if they don't trade a guy like an Alex Forsyth, possibly like with what
I definitely would not trade Alex Forsyth.
Right. No, but I'm just saying, like, especially with what some of those people would want, you're not trading, because like the worst possible thing for you to ever do is resort back to this idea that you don't have.
What up, Clayton?
Depth. What's up, Clayton? Thanks for hopping on with us. You just missed us talking about the Kansas City Chiefs victory. But yeah, so I think that to wrap this within, where do we go from here, Brandon? Again, like that Kansas City Chiefs victory was so big on so many levels, not just from the trade deadline part of this, but just the rest of the season, because there will be a point in time where, the Broncos season now, especially considering you got the Kansas City Chiefs out of the way, and you basically have the Buffalo Bills, you basically have the Buffalo Bills after this bye week, which is coming at such a perfect time. And the Buffalo Bills, you don't want to throw out the fraud term.
Hey, Josh Allen looked
but
really good. The rest of the team didn't, but
they are looking really Josh Allen is looking really good. And it's going to be an emotional game for Von Miller. Like, this is his first game that he's going to be playing against the Denver Broncos. And so, but like, you just don't know how that game is going to, basically, unfold. And especially out of the bye. Now, I think it's going to be a loss in terms of like, it's going to be in Buffalo. You don't really know what to expect out of the bye. And I say this right now. We'll preview that, next week and everything. But then after that, like, that's the thing is like after that,
we have a whole bye to game plan against it.
Exactly. So, like,
but we could beat the Bills.
Yeah, I
think the Bills are more beatable maybe not recently, because the Chiefs have kind of looked a little weird. But going into the season, I thought the Bills were more beatable than the Chiefs after what happened last season.
Yeah. And maybe they will fire on all cylinders. But I think the thing is like after that Bills game, though, is when it gets fascinating because you do have you have
The fact
the
that we
Minnesota.
haven't played the Chargers at all yet is kind of insane. Go ahead.
Well, you have the Minnesota Vikings. You have the Cleveland Browns, who are also
The
beatable.
Vikings with no Justin Jefferson and no Kirk Cousins.
Right. No Justin Jefferson and no Kirk Cousins. And then you have the Houston Texans, who are sneaky. I think we come away with the.
I'm actually really excited to see the Texans game. Like, I'm hyped for that game because CJ Stroud is legit.
Well, and I said before the season that game was a trap game for me, and it's looking even more and more like a trap game going into.
I think the Browns game is a trap game because their quarterback has been kind of whoever has been weird, but that defense is pointless.
Jim Schwartz will be a head coach in this next cycle, but I think that but if they win 3 in a row, and I think if they win 3 in a row and possibly 4 with the Buffalo Bills, but if they win 3 in a row, that could give them enough juice and enough momentum still to finish that season off on a high note. Because we
could lose to the Bills and then win 4 in a row, even.
Right? Because but by that same token, though, that Detroit Lions game is in Detroit, and we all know we've had this conversation.
I wasn't even including the Detroit game. That would be the next game because it would be Bills. Like even if we lose that, then Vikings, Browns, Texans, Chargers. So I don't know what to make of the Chargers.
So you think that they would win in SoFi?
With how the Chargers have been playing recently, yeah, I think we could.
I mean, it's certainly
the
doable.
Chargers are the Chargers. They're the Chargers.
But here's the thing, though.
They're charging more than I've ever seen them charger. It blows my mind.
If you want to be 10-7, which is ideal, and you want to be, I should say, like solely in that playoff hunt, you have to go 4-2 again, in your division.
Oh, we literally have to win every other AFC West matchup that we have.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I swear, if we play the Raiders again after they just fired their coach and we lose again, I'm going to.
So I definitely think it's doable for them to finish at, I do think it's doable for them to finish 9-8. I really do. All right. You teased it. Let's get into this. So
we should have won the Raiders game.
So if anybody had missed it and you guys were still asleep by this time, kudos. I mean, I was catching Z's for sure. In the wee hours of the night. But to wake up and find out that around like 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, that news broke that Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler were fired from the Las Vegas Raiders, and this now will put Josh McDaniels in historic category where he will be the first coach in NFL history to be fired in his second season halfway through the season. Of course, with the Denver Broncos and now the Las Vegas Raiders. Brandon,
he's never getting another head coaching job.
Oh, but here's the thing. Here's the thing that is, true in this. We had our reservations in terms of him as a play caller, how good of a play caller he is. However, we should definitely come out and say this, Brandon, that we told you so. Like to Raiders fans, we told you so. And frankly, everybody in Broncos country.
Oh, wait, did you mean that we didn't have reservations about him as a play caller? We had reservations about him as a head coach because he's a pretty good play caller. He's just a play coach.
We didn't have reservations about him as a play caller. We had reservations about him as a head coach.
Right. Yeah. Because as a play caller, he's pretty good. As anything else, he's horrible.
But it's also worth pointing out there, this is the third head coaching job that he is actually, basically shunned. Because people may forget this, but like he was hired for the Indianapolis Colts job. And then quite literally 5 minutes later, he calls Jim Irsay up and says, nah, you know what? I'm good. I won't be the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. At that moment there, I kid you not, at that moment there, with the integrity that he showed to that Colts franchise, I would never have touched him for a 10-foot pole.
No. Although, let me just run this by you because I think it'd be funny with the whole
He goes
Bill
back.
Belichick thing going on. What if he just goes back to the Patriots as their head coach? Would that not be the most Josh McDaniels Patriots thing of all time?
I was gonna say it would be the
Like
most.
he should never. Like first of all, he should never be a head coach ever again, and I don't think he will be. But I just think that'd be funny.
Oh, it would be hilarious, but it also would be super predictable. Like to what you were saying, like it would be super predictable. So, but what? And it's funny because like there's a
You
scenario.
ever feel bad about the Broncos being dysfunctional? Just remember that the Raiders still exist.
Everybody that wants to say that the Denver Broncos were the new Browns and everything, you literally have the Raiders that are at this point the laughingstock of the NFL, to where they are not just paying John Gruden's contract,
which I want to know how much money they still owe.
They will be paying.
How can they afford it?
They will be paying the entirety of the contract of Josh McDaniels. For correlation's sake, like the Colorado Rockies, like it took them a while to get out of this hole, but it was basically back when they paid Denny Nagel and Mike Hampton. Like they were like, I believe it was Denny Nagel, like at one point, like was still on the books, like for the Rockies, and it was like 7 some years like down the line, or 6 some years down the line, and they were still paying a guy like a Denny Nagel. So it's just like
for anyone who's listening, if you didn't know, NFL coaches guarantees or coaches contracts are always fully guaranteed.
Well, it's just like it. So like, it's gonna get to the point where, you know, frankly, if it works out with Antonio Pierce, and if it works out for him, I mean,
did you see what he said?
Yes, I did. I'm not gonna repeat what he said, but
phrase it, bro. How do you even get to that point? Anyway, yeah. I won't say it.
But if Antonio Pierce works out, I would be completely honest with you, the best case scenario, because financially, I don't see how you go after Harbaugh. I don't
know how they can afford literally anyone. For a while there, they literally couldn't even afford to fire him because they had to continue to pay his salary.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you're going to get to a situation where the Raiders will be hand-tied for who they're going to have to select, with their head coaching position because of the financial situation. And you said this, and I'll actually hand it off to you, because you had those same reservations in terms of like, where exactly, like, where do they go? Because like I said, you can't exactly hire Harbaugh, like, because he's going to want.
There might be some way they can find a way to do it, but I don't know what it would be.
Well, one, given Harbaugh's current situation with Michigan, he may not be a coach at any time soon, given everything that's going on with the.
Do you think Mark Davis gives a shit about that? Because I don't. Mark Davis should sell the team, but anyway,
cut his hair.
Cut his hair with anything other than a bowl.
Yeah. He could that bowl cut. He could have some ramen noodles within that bowl cut. Like,
did you? All right, it's obviously not true. But did you see the
yes
report that the reason that Josh McDaniels was fired is because he showed up after their loss? He was the Colts, dressed up as Mark Davis.
Yes. Which, by the way,
why would you willingly look like that?
Absolutely. I don't know. I'm curious to see what the Raiders will do. And it certainly seemed like they, for the first time, were listening to some of those players in the locker room. But again, like, I'm glad, Josh brought this up, because like I think this is the thing that's going to bite them, and bite them.
Bisaccia.
I think this is the thing that's going to bite them the most. The fact that they never gave Bisaccia a chance. Yeah. They never gave Bisaccia a chance. I will tell you right now, I was in person for the game where I believe it was Bisaccia's first game, and it was against the Denver Broncos, and of course that was a Fangio game, if I'm not mistaken. But like, that was a game where the offense put up like 30 plus points against the Broncos, and it was a pretty dominant Raiders win over the Broncos, like at the stadium. So it's like the fact that they failed that and they didn't give Bisaccia the keys after Gruden. Like, I really think that's going to bite them really, really bad.
Bisaccia, who's now the assistant head coach of the Packers. So technically, they could try to hire him back because it'd be a promotion. There's no way he would take that job. So, I don't think he'd want to go back there.
Big Mike says,
please don't do that to me. I'm starting to like Tom Brady. Okay, don't make me hate him again, please.
But also, with Josh McDaniels,
that would actually be insane.
But with Josh McDaniels out of the building, I would say it's maybe a little.
Go ahead.
It could be a little bit unlikely to that regard.
I was gonna say it would be actually hilarious if Tom Brady takes over as the offense or as the head coach, and then the Raiders are incredibly successful. Because what would that say about the entire New England Patriots staff? Because Belichick without Tom Brady,
Watch the Raiders do the most.
Josh McDaniels without Tom Brady.
I was just gonna say watch the Raiders do the most Raider thing ever and hire like Josh McCown as head coach of the.
Low key though, Josh McCown's pretty good. Would be a pretty good coach. But did you see what RG3 wanted them to do? That they should hire, or at least interview Marshawn Lynch. Please do it. Please do it. Take this advice. That's a perfect idea. Fantastic idea, Mark Davis. Do it right now.
One thing is for sure is that your best press conferences would be Mike McDaniel and Marshawn Lynch every single.
Oh my God, it'd be so funny. Marshawn Lynch would literally walk into the press conference and just say, "I'm just here so I don't get fined," and then not answer a single question.
Right. So I mean, like, any final thoughts though, as far as like you know to go back to the game or possibly like the trade deadline. Like, do you have any other final thoughts on it? Like, I mean,
1-0, baby. Take that L on the way out.
That's right. It's funny. You mentioned about like the correlation between the Lakers game and a little bit to the Broncos. That Kansas City Chiefs game and the Denver Broncos was rather similar in the same vein of like the Lakers were treating that as a regular season, championship, and we were treating it like a regular season championship. But the game itself between the Broncos and the Chiefs was so eerily similar to the Lakers and Nuggets series, to what you brought up, that there was one point, I will be fair, like there was one point that I thought there was that moment where, oh no, is this really going to happen? And it was the blocked field goal. Like there was a moment where they blocked the kick, and I was like,
I'm pretty sure that he was offsides on that actually too.
It looked like it, and it seemed like he timed the snap perfectly on the.
Did you? I didn't actually watch it back again.
Yeah, it seemed like he timed it perfectly, but like that was the one.
Von Miller perk.
Yeah, X Factor, Von Miller X Factor. But like at that moment, like when they were that close, like when it was 14-9. Was really that only moment where you're just like, oh wow, there really has this chance to actually do this. And no, it never happened. The Broncos pulled away. They won 24-9, and the Kansas City Chiefs are memes all over Instagram. It's fantastic. Like, it's absolutely fantastic, and it's a fun day. It's a fun time to be a Denver Bronco, and so I'm definitely excited to possibly go on a winning streak. What's the line from Major League? We won 2 in a row. We win 1 tomorrow. That's called a winning streak. So if they beat the Buffalo Bills, that's called a winning streak. If they
you automatically win the bye. So we're 3-0. I don't make the rules.
Right. But anyway, I mean, any other final thoughts on like the game in general, or just maybe something like we did not touch that we probably should? Nothing you can think of? Nope. All right. Well, with that, we are going to transition now into NFL picks, which, by the way, thank you, Ben, for the motivation to pick the Carolina Panthers, of getting that.
I picked the Panthers? I don't think I did.
You were the lone wolf in that situation.
Hey.
But the Carolina Panthers of getting their first W on the season. The Carolina Panthers got that dub over the Houston Texans. Bryce Young, once again.
Bryce Young looked pretty good, actually, in that game.
He did, actually. All right, Brandon. NFL picks.
And this time we won't be embarrassed by forgetting to pick the Broncos because
this time, exactly.
Tennessee at Pittsburgh. Oh my god.
Will Levis show.
Thursday
Will Levis show.
Yo, Will Levis though. But the Pittsburgh defense is kind of legit. Like TJ Watt might eat his lunch.
I mean, Will Levis though. I mean, it's hard to know. Like, I mean, obviously, like you couldn't.
DeAndre Hopkins is kind of back though. Like,
well, is he back because Will Levis played really well, or is he back because
I don't know? I haven't watched any Titans games.
Was it just because it was one game? Like, I don't know.
I mean, for all I know, DeAndre Hopkins has been open every single week, and his quarterback can't throw to him. So I don't know.
Oh, sounds like some of the wide receivers here at times.
I don't know what to take. I don't know what to pick here.
I think I'm going to go with the Steelers. I think I'm going to go with
Kenny Pickett playing. Wasn't he injured?
Oh, that's a good point. I think I'll still go Steelers.
Ribs says he's playing for sure.
I think I'll go Steelers.
Cam Hayward, full participant. You know what? This is my spicy take. I'm going to take Tennessee.
Okay. Brandon's going to take Tennessee.
Will Levis is going to put some mayonnaise in his coffee,
eat
a banana hole, and throw 3 touchdowns.
I wonder how many times he did that. Which, by the way, I am really looking forward to beating Josh once again in fantasy.
No, Josh's gonna kick your ass.
Dolphins and Chiefs. Dolphins and
Chiefs. This is gonna be interesting.
7:30.
But it's in Kansas City.
And it's in Kansas. No, well, it's in Germany.
Kansas City's the home.
Yeah.
In Frankfurt, Germany. At 7:30 in the morning. That's dumb. I don't know.
Oh man, I tell you what.
Tyreek Hill revenge game. I'm taking Miami.
I tell you what though. Like, why don't we think about this one for a little bit?
Let's come back to this one. Let's do this one last.
Yeah, we'll stew on this one. Seahawks and Ravens.
Why is your ESPN schedule different than mine?
Well, it's just scheduled different, and I'm beating Josh again. So,
okay.
I mean,
I'm
going to go with Baltimore.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, the game of the week: the Arizona Cardinals and the Cleveland Browns.
Is Kyler Murray going to play?
They traded Josh Dobbs. So
who else would they play?
Oh, you know what? It could be Clayton.
They didn't take him off of IR.
It could be Clayton Tune.
I don't think. Clayton Tune.
Yeah.
Against the Cleveland defense, he's gonna die.
Cleveland.
Clayton Tune.
Whatever.
Cleveland.
Whatever. Jeez. Browns by 100.
You just said that. Yeah, Clayton Tune. His tomb.
Oh. Browns by 100. Bucks and Texans.
Arizona has the first overall pick too. That'd be the most Arizona thing to do. Well, no, they'd still have the first overall pick. Yeah. Bucks is that the next one? Bucks to Houston.
Does Texans bounce back?
This one might be interesting.
Trey Palmer's a dude.
Let's see here.
Are
there any injuries on the Bucs side that I don't know about? I don't think so.
I think I'll go Bucs.
Baker Mayfield's just going to throw 2 touchdowns again.
It's Trey Palmer.
They can't run anything though. No, Mike Evans, bro. Mike Evans. Yeah, I'll take the Bucs.
Bears and Saints. I actually think I'm going to go Saints on this one. Saints had their game, rather offensive game last weekend.
With Bilbo Baggins Back still in Chicago.
And Shaheed balling out of his mind. Josh Dobbs.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take the Saints too.
Josh Dobbs and Jaron Hall against.
No, they said they're starting Jaron Hall.
I know, but like it's possible that you
Right.
see both against Taylor Heineke.
God,
Desmond Mitter has been benched.
Desmond. I've never heard that yet. I'm never saying his name again. It's just Mitter from now on. That's incredible.
Desmond
I can't believe I've
Mitter.
never heard anyone say that. Who are they playing? What's happening?
Vikings and
Okay. Oh God. Can I pick neither of them?
Wait, by the way, you want to talk about a sneaky
Taylor
trade?
Heineke might be kind of decent. I think I'm going to take Atlanta.
I'm going to take Atlanta. But like, if you want to talk about a sneaky trade in the offseason in terms of maybe change of scenery, if I'm the Broncos, I'm kicking the tires on Kyle Pitts.
Would they trade him though? They spent the 8th overall pick on him. Or no, the 4th overall pick on him.
You never know. Rams, Packers.
Rams. Oh, well, is Matthew Stafford healthy? Because he had that. It was his hand.
Brett Rippon would be playing, by the way.
And they're playing the
Green Bay Packers.
Packers. I think I'm still going to take the Rams.
I'm going Rams too.
Even though I don't think they might even go on IR. But I think I'd still take the Rams. That's kind of sad.
Okay.
Green Bay is just kind of. Although it is in Green Bay, that might be because it'll be cold.
And then
I'm still going to take the Rams.
Commanders and Patriots.
Sam Howell, though, is kind of a dude right now. Like, he played out of his mind against the Eagles. I think I'm going to take Washington. Because Mac Jones is
I'm going to go Washington.
Whatever the opposite of that is.
Carolina Panthers. They got their first win. They played the Indianapolis Colts.
The Gardner Minshew show still. I'm going to take the Colts.
It is at home, like it is in Carolina. Does Carolina stack a couple wins together?
I just think Gardner Minshew is low-key good, but the Carolina defense is also kind of okay.
And you're going on a second week.
And Adam Thielen is 28 years old again, somehow.
Yeah, and you're going on 2 weeks with Thomas Brown, who is, we should say, part of the Sean McVay scheme.
Can the Panthers stop the run?
I'm going Colts.
I don't know the answer to that
I'm
question.
going Colts, but I would not be surprised if the Panthers pulled them out there. Oh boy, the New York Giants and the Josh McDaniels.
They cannot stop the run. I'm taking the Colts.
The Josh McDaniels-less Raiders against the New York Giants. It is in Vegas. You also have a new play caller.
This one's also horrible. Well, they're going to start Aiden O'Connell.
And they're going to start Aiden O'Connell.
I think I'm going to take Vegas.
I was going to go Vegas too, but I mean,
because I think Devontae Adams might actually start to be, thrown to.
Yeah. But I don't think
and also Josh McDaniels and Josh Jacobs might. I also don't
think it doesn't change anything in terms of the Raiders.
I just think the Giants are also bad.
It doesn't even change anything with the Giants either. The boys and the Eagles.
Oh, this will be the rivalry game.
There's actually a couple
in Philadelphia, though.
I'm going Eagles. Which, by the way,
that got a good game. That might be a game.
Yeah. Now, Bills and Bengals. The Bengals have really turned it around.
And it's in Cincinnati. Yeah, Joe Burrow's kind of been showing out. This will be a fun game. I think I might take Cincinnati.
Bills are going to be looking ahead to the Broncos, and
sure.
they're going to be really worried about Russell Wilson in their home.
Did you see the Bills injury report?
Is it long?
No, but it has, because they traded for Rasul Douglas. Rasul Douglas is on the injury report, and his injury listed as just got here.
Sneaky trade for them, by the way. Yeah, but I'm going to go Bengals. Like,
the only fan that is Von Miller like healthy again? Is he like playing?
I think he is. Yeah,
because him against that Bengals offensive line though might be bad for the Bengals.
The Chargers and the Jets.
I'm gonna take the Bengals. The Chargers and who?
The Chargers and Jets.
Oh my goodness!
In MetLife,
Zach Wilson is.
Are you gonna say it?
Kind of decent right now. Like, I don't want to say good. And the Chargers are just charging.
Yeah,
that's all they do is charger, and the Jets defense is still the Jets defense.
I would not be surprised if they won though. The Chargers.
The Jets or the Chargers? You would be surprised if who wins.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Chargers won.
I think I'm still going to take the Chargers just because I can't bring myself to take the Jets, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets won.
Yeah, I'm going to go Chargers too. Hey, did we actually, is this one round where we actually picked everything but maybe one game?
No, I picked Tennessee.
Okay, because that was it.
Are you sure?
Oh, no. Who's winning between the Dolphins and...
I still don't know.
I'm gonna go Miami.
I think I'm gonna say Miami.
Yeah. If you want to stay true to your
I'm saying Miami, yeah.
Weird.
Well, I don't think that would affect the AFC East though.
I'm just saying, like, but if you
weird prediction that's currently true.
The weird prediction that is currently true.
I'm gonna go with Miami.
These are games that you do have to win. And I will laugh my butt off when the Kansas City Chiefs lose 2 straight.
Who do they play after that? They play the Dolphins, and then they play the Eagles. Oh my God. The Chiefs might lose 3 in a row, and then they play the Raiders, and they're going to blow them out by 85.
Oh, man.
That's a gauntlet.
You know what?
Holy shit.
As we're rounding this out, what was this? I mean, I'm asking this from a Denver Broncos fan's perspective, but let's look at this objectively, like objectively. What game was this? Like, if you were Kansas City, I would imagine like you were actually more frustrated at the fact that you did not beat the Denver Broncos in this game, and that you played so bad that now you have a gauntlet stretch right now where you have Miami, you have
they have Miami, and then they have the Eagles.
The Eagles. So you had a golden opportunity to win this game, and now you have a decent chance to lose 3 in a row.
I'm not sure. What's the question?
Like, how disappointed are you as a Chiefs fan, knowing the fact that you have
about Chiefs fans?
I'm saying
sucks to suck, loser.
I just can't believe that we're actually having a scenario where the Chiefs.
Well, also the funny thing is they play the Dolphins and they play the Eagles. Then they play the Raiders, which is a gimme, and then they play Packers. And then they kind of have a semi-gauntlet at the end because then they play the Bills. Then Patriots and Raiders again, which they'll probably win. But then they play the Bengals and then the Chargers again in LA. So they could theoretically lose they could lose 5 more games the rest of the season. I don't know if they will, but they could.
Well, and if there's one thing that this season has taught us specifically about the Kansas City Chiefs, it is that they are not immortal. They are mortal, and that they are definitely beatable. And the Denver Broncos are the team that broke the streak against the Kansas City Chiefs. The monkey is off, the Broncos back. They win that game. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of the Manely Broncos Podcast. To Big Mike, to Josh, to Clayton, to everybody that chimed in the show. Thank you guys so much for hopping on with us, for liking. Make sure you subscribe again to the MHRT Network and tuning in every Wednesday at 7:30 Mountain Time for another episode of the Manely Broncos Podcast. We certainly appreciate you guys. Make sure you follow Brandon over on Twitter he's got his handle over there at Brandon Miller PO, myself at Cameron Parker PO. You can follow the show handle, which is operated by both Brandon and I. Make sure you follow that Twitter handle at Manly Broncos. Like the Manly Broncos Facebook page, also like the MHRT Facebook page. Again, we want to say thank you guys for sticking with us and enjoying another episode of the Manly Broncos Podcast. And until next time, go Broncos.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flame out.